Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the infinity moss rectangle. If you're familiar with the moss stitch or the infinity moss square, this is pretty much just like it, slightly different take on it, but just as easy and lots of fun. Okay, so let's get started on round one. Your starting chain needs to be any even number. It doesn't matter what that even number is. Just keep in mind, the longer the chain, the longer your blanket. That doesn't count width, it counts length. Okay, so starting second chain from the hook, that first loop on your hook does not count. So count down 1, 2, start with a single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now instead of chaining 1 like we typically do with a moss stitch, we're working a corner, so we're going to chain 2. Now in that same stitch, we need to work another single crochet to make up our first corner. So work your single crochet, there's your corner. Now we can chain 1, skip a stitch, and in that next stitch, we're going to work a single crochet. Your sides are single crochet, chain 1s, your corners are single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So skip a stitch, insert your hook, single crochet, chain 1, and this gets me to the end of my row. So I have 2 chains left. I need to work in that last chain because I need to skip that stitch. If you don't have 2 left, regardless of your length, then you need to go back and check that. I do. So in that last chain, I'm going to work a single crochet, chain 2. This is the beginning of my corner. Insert my hook into that same space, single crochet. Now that's my first corner on this end, but my second corner for my blanket. Now to separate those corners, I need to chain 1, and then working in that same exact space as my first corner, I'm going to single crochet, chain 2, and again, single crochet in that same stitch. So at this point, I should have 2 corners separated by chain 1. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet. That gives me 2 corners on the end of my blanket, again, separated by chain 1. Now I can chain 1, and I'm going to find those single crochets from the other side of my row here, and that's where I'm going to work into. So once I found that, I can start my single crochet, chain 1, and move on to the next single crochet from the other side. So technically we're still skipping a stitch and working in our single crochet stitches. Okay, so here's where it can get a little tricky. I'm at the end of the other side of my row here, so I need to finish that corner. I already have one corner side done. Now I need to do the other corner. So I'm going to go in that space where I first started my first corner on my blanket and do a single crochet, chain 2. In that same space, I'm going to do another single crochet. And there's my fourth and final corner, but my second corner at the beginning of my blanket. But before I can attach these 2, I need to chain 1. And then I can join up this round with a slip stitch in the first single crochet from the beginning of this round. Those chain 1s in between those corner spacers are really important, and if you're getting confused, it's a really good idea to put a stitch marker in your very first single crochet. Now let's move on to round number 2. So with the front side of my work facing me from the previous round, I'm going to turn it, and then I'm going to immediately work into that chain space that I just finished. So I slip stitched, but if I turn it to the left side of me, I now have a chain 1 space, and I can see that, but if I look off to the left, I can see those 2 single crochets in the chain 2 spaces. So that tells me that right next to that, on the right hand side of that, is going to be that chain 1 space. So I'm going to work my single crochet into that, chain 1, now that immediately gets me over to my chain 2 space in my corner. So I'm going to work into that with another corner. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and chain 1, and now that is my first corner finished for round number 2. So at this point I can continue working in those chain 1 spaces with a single crochet, chain 1 until I get to the opposite corner, and the corners again are single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, then chain 1. Don't forget that chain 1. It's the corner spaces that actually increased stitches per row, but it's those chain 1 spaces that give us something to work into and actually creates the moss stitch on this blanket, so they're super duper important. Okay, I didn't show you how to start this by doing your first row as a full single crochet, so you didn't have those gaps in the middle. If you know how to do that, or if you find a tutorial that shows you how to do that, I strongly recommend it. I typically do, but I really wanted to keep this as simple as possible, but it does make the inside of your blanket look so much neater and nicer. Okay, so if you're going to continue to work these rounds in the one color, then you're just going to continue to slip stitch into that first single crochet in the round, turn, and then continue working it as you go along. However, I want to show you how to change color, and there is a trick that will help you keep the edges of your blanket super straight and will also help keep your edges laying flat. So I'm going to take a minute and show you how to do that. So I finished off that round by weaving in all of my ends so I have nothing hanging out and I can start with a new round. I have it facing forward from the row that I just finished. I know where I stopped because I can find that slip stitch. Now I'm going to turn it and then I'm going to rotate it. I think rotating it is really what does the trick here. Now with a slip knot on my hook in my new color, I'm going to start in any one of those chain 1 spaces right next to one of the corners. This is typically what I do so I can keep track of where I start and end later as I'm turning and rotating, but you do whatever works best for you. I'm going to immediately go in with a single crochet and a chain 1, just like I've done on my previous rounds. And then when I get to the end of this round, I can either change colors again, or I can continue on with the same color. I guess it just depends on whatever pattern you're working on. And again, those sides are a single crochet, chain 1, and those corners are a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and that just about does it for me. If you missed anything, feel free to go back and rewatch. I will also have links down in the description below for written instructions on the Ruby Grace blog, as well as links to patterns featuring the Infinity Moss rectangle in the Ruby Grace shop. Thank you so much for stopping by. Love your face.